Welcome to Bootstrapped Unicorns. I'm your host, Josh Pies, and this is the show where scrappy founders, rebellious visionaries, and business misfits pull back the curtain on what it really takes to build something extraordinary from absolutely nothing. No trust fund, no fairy god investor, just grit, duct tape, caffeine, yeah, and that dream. We're talking about the wild, unfiltered ride of turning chaos into cash flow and ideas into impact. So buckle up. This is no Disney movie, but there might be some magic. Let's face it, even Elon started in a garage. So without further ado, let's get to the next episode. Welcome to Bootstrapped Unicorns, presented by C47 Digital Studios. Bootstrapped Unicorns, this is an episode that you need to get down with because this is absolutely the core of everything. It's entrepreneurship. We're talking only entrepreneurship, so help me God. And it's going to be a great episode. I'm excited. As you can tell, I'm also caffeinated. Cheers. So before we jump into my awesome conversation with Rupert, and you'll meet him in a second, I want to remind you that, yes, this is a sponsored show. C47 Digital Studios is my business and we sponsor our own show. And so if you want to do a podcast, you're like, oh, my business would benefit from a podcast. Or if you're sitting there going, I don't think I would benefit from a podcast, but maybe I'm wrong. Here's what you're going to do. Go to makeitashow.com. I'll say it again, makeitashow.com, and just go grab the free ebook. I made it. I wrote it, and I've been around a while. It's got good things in there. It's about 35, 40 pages long, and it's going to basically give you the 411 on everything that we do so that you can figure out whether you want to do it for yourself. Cool. Kudos if you do. If you want to go and hire us, that's kind of the point of this conversation. Go ahead and call us and we can do that. Or if you go, wow, that is a heavy lift and I don't think it will help my business at all, and you walk away from it, we just saved you from a big headache. And so I'm actually very good with that as well. So you're going to go to makeitashow.com. Hey, big secret. It's a redirect link to c47films.com, but it's to the right page where you can get the thing. But then you can browse around on my website and see other stuff too. Cool? Great. All right. So now, without further ado, Rupert, help me pronounce your last name again. It's Meghnot, right? Mm-hmm. I got it. All right. So welcome. I'm so glad you're here. And you are the founder, owner, creator of OrlandoPreneur.
Yes.
Yes. All right. Tell me about OrlandoPreneur, because we're going to get into all things entrepreneurship right now. But I think we're going to come right back to the point at the end that OrlandoPreneur is here for entrepreneurs. But tell me about the business.
So you want me to tell you how I started or why I started?
Oh, we're going to get to that in a second. I want you to full pitch everybody right now. What is OrlandoPreneur?
So OrlandoPreneur is an entrepreneurial service organization that teaches entrepreneurs what nobody else does.
And what is nobody else teaching?
Common sense.
Gosh darn it. Isn't it always true? Nobody's teaching our kids that either in school. Send them to school and teach them a whole bunch of stuff they'll never use, but can't balance a checkbook, don't understand the economy, and can't tie their shoes.
Yeah, it's like there's 4,300 incubators and accelerators in the world, and yet we still have a 5% success rate.
That's gross. You told me that before, and I kind of wanted to puke.
It's shocking.
Yeah.
Right? But think about something. Everything we see around us, every piece of every car, every piece of your clothing, everything we've ever bought in our lives was once a startup.
Yeah, you got to start somewhere.
But they suffer from a 5% success rate.
It's freaky bad.
So
why would anybody even try?
So all the wealth in the world and all the innovation in the world was created by a 95% failure rate.
Kind of makes entrepreneurship sound like a really bad idea.
No, it sounds like something that really needs to be encouraged.
Fair,
and
right.
supported.
Right.
Because if all the wealth in the world is created by a 5% success rate, what would happen if we doubled it to 10%?
Oh my God. It just the world would literally turn on its ear in really good ways.
Right. And the thing is that it's still a 90% failure rate.
But it's not 95. Right?
It's not 95. But the thing is wealth is arithmetic. Innovation is logarithmic. So we might double the wealth in the world. However, innovation will go up by 3 to 6x, right? Can you imagine what that would do?
Sure. Yeah. Quality of life would incredibly increase.
Right.
The cure to cancer might be in the next 5%.
Right. Well, it's on its way already, but yeah.
Well, fingers crossed that's true. But yeah, I mean, how many things aren't succeeding that could, if we could just change the entrepreneurial stats?
Yeah.
How do we do that?
So, well, the way we do that is, first of all, we understand why they're failing. Okay. Now, when CB Insights and Forbes and Startup Genome and everybody else, these are the top 20 reasons or 10 reasons why startups fail. As a project manager, I look at these things and I say, no market for your product or service, get out competed, ran out of cash, poor customer experience or user experience or customer relations. I'm looking at these things and I'm like, these are not causes of failure. They are symptoms of failure, because there's only one reason why any company ever fails. And that's us.
Yeah.
Right. The buck stops here. Right. We screw up. And so if we ran out of cash, if we're like, God forbid, OrlandoPreneur runs out of cash, I ran out of cash.
Right. Yeah. That's right.
If we get out competed, I got out competed. Right. And so what people don't understand is there's processes that you can implement in order to not mitigate, but totally avoid a lot of these problems, most of these problems. And so that's so I bring my two passions of entrepreneurship and project management together. And, my success rate is just over 60%.
Well, so let's go there, because I think the next logical question, and it sounds almost combative, but I know you'll hear me, is why you, right? So, and I know because we've hung out, why you, but so you've got a 60% success rate doing what? What types of things have you done in the past?
Oh my gosh. Well, I didn't start as early as you did. Yeah. I was 8 years old when I was collecting bottles and cans, for their 10 cents at Michigan.
Wait, hold on. Michigan was 10 cents?
Yeah.
Yeah, I only got 5 in New York.
Yeah, 10 cents. It's still 10 cents.
Really?
Yeah. For That's 60 years, it's been 10 cents.
Have you ever heard those weird cases where people commit fraud by taking it from a state that doesn't do 10 cents and moves it to the state to pick up the difference?
Yeah.
But
the can says 5 cents. When you take it to a 10-cent state, it's still going to say 5 cents on it.
I get it. It's just so funny to me, right? I look at that stuff and it just, people try a lot of things. And almost kudos to them for giving it a go, but still, anyhow, it's just instantly, because I heard a story once upon a time where somebody got in a lot of trouble for that.
Yeah.
But 10 cents as a kid, that's good.
Yeah. And, and then of course started, I had a paper route when I was 12 and whatnot, and other various things. But my first business was in my third year at Michigan State and studying political science and statistics. I was approached by a local company to do political consulting.
As a college kid?
Yeah.
That's interesting. And what were you consulting on?
Actually, I pretty much finished. I only had 5 credits left after my junior year. And,
well, I find things like that fascinating because, it's when a young person becomes a consultant. Yeah. That to me is a unique recognition of something rather special in that young person, because most consultants are 40 years in an industry and now they're going to hang a shingle as a consultant because they've got those 40 years of stories that they can draw on. When you're that young, it's a different thing. So that alone is fascinating. So they poached you at that young age.
15 successful campaigns later, I got a phone call. And then I'm sitting in the London Chop House and with 12 suits. And I'm like, what am I doing here? And they're like, what's it going to take for you to go away?
It's the other suits. It's the opposition suits.
Yeah. So at 20,
that's funny.
So at 23, I exited from that. And then,
so they literally paid you to disappear.
And then I did other things, jumped around here and there and so forth. And then it came down here because Rollins offered me a 50% scholarship because of my business experience for their MBA school at Core. Okay. And came down here and was a partner in a international publishing company for the first year. And then I was working full time and going to school full time. And then the second year, I got a job at Martin Marietta as a consultant, a project management consultant. They asked me when I left the publishing thing, I went to, I called a friend of mine who was actually one of my timeshare people from Detroit who moved down to Orlando. And one of my customers, and I asked him, I'm looking for a job, I'm looking for work. And he says, do you know anything about project management? I'm a guy who jumps off cliffs and builds planes on the way down.
Got it.
So it's like, so I'm like, sure, but I didn't realize that with my ADHD, the reason why I became such a great planner was because if I didn't plan something, it wasn't going to get done.
Right. Yeah, right. That was a survival tactic.
Right. And it was a coping mechanism that I developed since I was a child. And so, interviewed with him and then interviewed with the VP of the plant. And then they hired me on a 6-month contract with them, and then got involved. And I was ultimately there almost over 3 years. And because, I just pretty much turned the whole thing around. It was pretty amazing.
What problem were you solving at that point?
So, the first one, for instance, he said, he told me that he couldn't hire me because he didn't have any jobs open. And I said, well, just hire me as a 1099. I mean, you don't have to worry about going through all the paperwork for W-2 and benefits and all that. And I said, just do a 1099. He said, okay, great. And I said, so where do I start? And he pointed to my friend Denise, and I said, what's up with him? And he says, he was a French guy. And he says, so what Denise was doing is he was collecting all the drawings on paper, right, from all the engineers and all the part drawings and everything. And he had a machine shop and an R&D, I guess an R&D lab, but he's building everything.
Okay. He's
building everything and testing it. Okay. From radios to rockets to missiles to whatever.
So you just take the designs and you do the takeoffs and you build them.
Yeah. And he said he's 9 months behind schedule.
Ooh, okay.
All right. And so I was like, oh, okay. So we got our work cut out for us. He only had like 23 people on his team. And
which for a lot of our listeners, they're going to be like, oh, I'd kill for 23 people on my team. So that sounds big, but it sounds like that was a little light for the mandate.
Right. So back then, I mean, this is 87, I think. Okay. And so I said, sure. And so I started working with him, on his team and with his team and everything like that. And 3.5 months later, the VP runs into my office and stop what you're doing. Stop what you're doing. I'm like, shit, I got fired already, And I said, what's up? And he says, well, 3.5 months ago, you were 9 months behind schedule. And I said, yeah. And he says, now the whole plant is 1 month behind schedule. And I'm like, oh, okay.
All right.
And he says, well, I'm not going to pay you for 2.5 months to sit on your ass. And I said, okay, what am I going to do with you? I said, you're going to pay me for a week to sit on my ass. And when I come back, just give me a list. And that's why I was there for almost 3 years.
So you just have to take your week and let them come up with a list for 3 straight years?
Priorities. And then I just started hitting them, boom, 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 right? Fixing all their processes and getting more efficient and more productive and everything else like that.
So that seems very intrapreneurish.
Well, I guess at that point in time, I helped another organization it started in Martin, but then went to GE, called Real 3D.
Oh, I remember that. Yeah.
So I helped them get started and, just a whole bunch of other things, but it was a lot of fun. And then from there, I went to property management. And then from there, I had my first invention, right?
Okay.
It was called Video Snap, and it was a holder for remote controls that beeped if you lose it. Right.
Oh.
And so it was I left the property management company, and I'm 2 years without an income. I'm just going 90 miles an hour with my hair on fire for a couple of years. And I get funding from an investor and everything, and designed the whole thing. I had 5,000 made and everything. And then I was working with, I met Kevin Harrington, who had just started his business, and
pre-Shark Tank.
Yeah, way before. And then he, says, okay, this is the place. So we went to Great Falls, Montana, because that was the place to film the best company in the country for filming infomercials at the time.
No kidding.
Great Falls, yeah. Went up there, did the video. Oh my gosh, that was an experience. But in any case, we did it, right? It was a consumer electronics item, basically. Yeah. And so we had a really super successful test, and I was ready to go. All I needed was $40,000 to give him because, and then just give him all the product and $40,000. And then he sells it and does everything, $250,000 buys every month and everything. And then it was in the 1992 recession. which at the time was the biggest thing since 29.
Right.
And my investor said that last 50 ain't coming. And I was like, wait, what? Here I am, $250,000 in debt, and not just to the investor $500,000, but another quarter on top of that. And I'm like, oh crap, what am I going to do? So next thing I know, I'm standing in a bathroom in a club, selling colognes. But at the meantime, I
can't tell you how many entrepreneurs I run into who have something similar where they're like, I had a grand stop off at Home Depot.
Yeah.
I had that in between time where it's like, I need some health insurance. We got a baby and I'm going to sell paint.
I get it. And so, but the thing is in the club, while I was doing that, I had already started I'd met this guy, Dr. Judson King, who was a wonderful human being. He's passed away long gone, but he started the Florida Venture Group.
Okay.
And so I became his right-hand person and was basically handling things. And then when he passed, I took it over. And so every month I'm hosting a luncheon or a dinner. We alternated every other month, and I'd have 60 seats in the room. I'd always have over 200 people on the waiting list. And
wow.
These are all high net worth individuals and investors.
Now, is this one of those almost club style where you're in order to hear a pitch during that dinner?
Yeah.
And
so
you may or may not
invest? And we do 2 pitches, and every event I see checks fly. Every event. Right. So, and did that for about 5-6 years. And I was also, was on the board of the Central Florida Council for High Technology, which was the first and most popular still tech association that the city's ever had. We had 6,000 members.
Wow. That's big for an organization
in the
like
90s.
that.
Right.
Yeah.
And we were doing like 4 to 8 events a month. And, but in any case, so here I am standing in this club in the restroom, and you got to imagine I was 50 pounds lighter. I was in fighting trim, and I had a really good layout and everything. And I'm reading all the time, right? So I'm always reading. And these guys would come in and we strike up conversation, and they're all high net worth individuals because they're blowing 5, 10, 15 grand a night. And so I put 2 and 2 together and said, well, I got all these friends that are looking for capital, and here's all these people that don't know what to do with it. And within 3 years, I was debt free, including my new house. So,
wow.
And the thing is,
how long were you slinging the cologne before you at least got to pull yourself out of that?
That was about 3 years. Yeah. And, but the thing is too, it was a gold mine.
Yeah. Right. It's almost, with that, mine. You don't want to leave.
So, I mean, technically, to answer your question, it was about just under 2 years.
Wow.
But I stayed there for a little over a year after that because I had other things that I was doing. And so I was getting those things going as well. My consulting practice, especially.
Yeah.
And so my consulting practice was basically writing business plans and helping raise capital for companies.
How long did you do the consulting side of things?
I'm still doing it.
Well, I guess you are. You're right. Yeah. But I know, you've taken people to Shark Tank. You've done some other things that are really interesting in that journey. And so if you're writing a business plan for somebody and helping them go to market, what stage are they at when they're actually asking for your help then? Do they have is it a consumer product and they have a rapid prototype tested? Is it a computer program? Is it?
I look at everything.
Okay.
I look at everything because I'm more interested in the individual, right, than I am in the technology.
Yeah.
Okay. Because anybody and their grandmother can come up with some harebrained idea to have a better nose trimmer, right? Mm-hmm. But the thing is that I'm interested in the person because it's like a fighter. The best fighters are the ones that have the most heart, right?
Sure.
And the most backbone and courage and resilience, et cetera, and passion, right? So those are the people that I look for.
How do you uncover that? How do you figure out who's got it?
So when I was teaching at Full Sail, I don't know if I mentioned, but I taught project management for the Game Design Master's Degree program there for 6 years, and while I was there, one of the exercises we did in one of the classes was to find out the students' superpower. Mm-hmm. And so everybody would want to go around. There were, I think there were like 16 people in the room at the time, and they went around the room and they were awkward and they were trying to figure out what's my superpower and all this that. And so at the end of the exercise, I said, okay, great. And, it's a big discussion and everything. And then at the end of it, one of them was waving their hand wildly. I'm like, Stu, what's up? And he goes, what's your superpower? I said, my superpower? He said, yeah. And I said, I'm thinking like 40, 50 things going through my head. And another one waves his hand and says, I know what it is. I said, what is it? He says, you perform egoectomies. And I said, egoectomies? He said, yeah. He says, before we first walked through that door, we were all,
do it.
We were hot shit.
Yep.
Right. We knew everything. We were on top of the world. We're getting our master's degree in the game production, which is, less than 2% of people in the world will have.
It is impressive.
And all this stuff. And we're it. Right. And he said, within 15 minutes.
They've been humbled.
He said, within 15 minutes, we all felt this tall, right? Like an inch tall. And I said, well, what happened with that? And they said, now we're even taller than we were when we first came through that door.
Interesting.
And I said, cool. And because I broke them down, but then I built them up because I dug in. Ego isn't based on competency.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. But ego that is far stronger. It's confidence, right?
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
So if your confidence is not up to your competence, then you're egotistical.
Okay. If your confidence is not up to your competence,
then you
are egotistical.
Right.
Okay.
Right. And so I build up their confidence, and then those guys went on to manage billions of dollars in game industry stuff. So I guess that answers.
Yeah, I guess that's
so. When people come to me, right, and they're looking for capital and this and that, I ask them the right questions the right way, to understand, where they're coming from and where their competency is, where their confidence is, and where their ego is. Right.
Right. So are they teachable?
Are they coachable? Yeah. Yeah. Number one, they have to be coachable. If they're not coachable, then I'm not going to waste my time.
Yep.
Right. Because I've run into so many entrepreneurs that were uncoachable that had brilliant, just absolutely brilliant ideas, right? That I desperately wanted to help see to get to market. It's just that they screw it up. They always screw it up.
And is that mismatch of confidence and competence then?
Yes.
So the screw
100%.
up is because
100%.
You're in over your skis and you don't know it.
Yeah. And see, that's part of the ageism that I experience, is because people assume that since I'm accomplished and blah, 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 that I'm not coachable, which couldn't be farther from the truth. All you got to do is ask my team.
Yeah.
Right?
Cool.
They know that they can call BS to my face and say, you're wrong about this, and this is why.
Mm-hmm.
It's like on my students. I said I have two feedback departments. I said, this feedback department, right, is you come to me with a problem, but you also offer me a solution, right? And then they said, well, if we don't have a solution, I said, then you go to this department. Which one you want to go to, right?
Yeah.
And so I'm here. My ego is based on just being the best leader and the best entrepreneur that I can be, period. End of story, right? If you can show me a better way of doing things, I'm not going to bat an eyelash. I'm going to say, let's go. Let's do it, right? And because I want my people to be happy, and I want my customers to be happy, and I want, ultimately the world to be happy. So I'm not going to let my ego get in the way of that.
Yeah. I feel like a lot of self-aware leaders like yourself, where you are teachable because the results are far more interesting than the pathway itself.
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah. Right. No, but I almost, because I did a lot of time in comedy and improv comedy, and there's this. A lot of people know that there's that yes and rule, where if you're going to introduce something and we're on stage, I don't get to say no.
Yeah.
I have to say yes and in order to keep furthering the story, and we find that pathway together. And I think there's a lot of And the ageism thing kind of bothered me a little bit because I'm stepping into that ageism potential myself. I'm where people assume that
people are so stupid. I mean, when the CEO of Y Combinator, told me that I was too old, right?
Really? And
I'm like, well, wait a minute.
That's like against the spirit of Y Combinator.
And I'm like, you understand that somebody 60 years old is 3.6 times 3.6 times more likely to start a successful business, a successful startup than somebody 30 years old. It's like we should be going after the gray-haired people,
absolutely,
to start businesses.
Most of my favorite success stories
that
start
just
in the
blows
40s.
my mind. That's so effing stupid.
I know,
right? It's just like, people look at people and people are retiring. I don't understand why people retire when they're 65. They're in their prime, their prime peak professional performance in their lives, right? And it's like, and then they die, a few years later. And it's like,
well, right, because they have no purpose at that point.
It just makes no difference. It makes no sense to me.
So do we put our tinfoil hats on and say that the whole system was rigged to have us retire at 65 so that we're we're in our prime, but misusing it?
No.
Oh, come on. That's a great conspiracy theory. I don't buy it either, people, but
no, it's just stupidity.
Yeah.
It's just stupidity. There's no conspiracy about stupidity. Right.
Yeah, no, it is a universal truth that it shows up a lot of places.
Yeah, we're stupid in so many ways, right? And I make a lot of stupid mistakes, way too many. It's just that groupthink, right? Yeah. It's groupthink. And so that's something that we have to fight. Like there's groupthink in politics, right? Oh, we either raise taxes or we cut funding. And I'm like, no. It's like, that's, again, the height of stupidity, right? If we cut, just like it did at Martin Marietta, if we cut 10% of the cost of doing business in the government, right, then we could feed every person in the United States. We can house every person in the United States. We can give healthcare and educate every person in the United States.
I've never run
and have the strongest military and the strongest everything else. If we just got more efficient with the way we did things.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, I mean, the government is the Department of Redundancy Department. Yeah.
When Reagan came in, he got Senator Grace. He walked up to him and he says, okay, I want you to find out ways to make government more efficient. Right. Long before Elon was probably was born at that time. And he said, you got 6 months. And in 6 months, Senator Grace gave him like a book like 3.5 inches thick, and it had 2,507 recommendations to make government more efficient. And you know how many Congress passed?
I can't imagine it broke out of 20.
8.
Yep.
8. And then I read a report in 2010 that said if it wasn't for those 8 that were passed, 2008 would have been twice as bad.
Really?
Yeah.
So what do we do with that legacy information? I mean, and I realize we
need to pull our heads out of our asses and start thinking like project managers, right? And everybody, technically everybody's a project. If you put your clothes on in the morning, you're a project manager.
Right. That was a project and you bring it to completion.
You go through the 5 phases, you go through all the different things and processes.
Let's unpack that. There's somebody listening to this going, I don't think I know how to manage a project. And so we break everything into 5 phases around here based on, through the lens, pun semi-intended, of the film industry.
Right.
Because the film industry thinks in 5 phases in order to get something to, from an idea I had last night while I was falling asleep to a distributed paid for movie.
Right.
Right. We apply that to everything. So you've got 5 phases. I've got 5 phases because there are 5 phases to project management.
Right.
Go.
So putting your clothes on in the morning. All right. So the 5 phases, the first one is initiation. So you wake up, you climb out of bed, you look in the mirror and you go, well, I can't go to bed. I can't go to work looking like this.
Okay.
Right? So you go into so you initiate, right? That starts the project. You walk into the closet and then you start, you're planning. You're like, what color do I feel like today? What do I want, a skirt or pants or whatever, and blouse or what, a coat, whatever. So you're planning, right? And then while you're planning, you're also monitoring and controlling, because you pick a slack or whatever, and then you put a shirt. Do these go together, right? You're monitoring and controlling. And once you're fully dressed and you look in the mirror and you go, hey, right? You close. So those are the 5 phases that you go through: initiating, planning, monitoring, controlling, initiating, planning, monitoring, controlling, and closing.
Okay, that's 4.
That's 4. What's the 5th one? I'm having a brain fart.
Well, I'll tell you, we don't use the same terms in the film world, but this might cue it. So
execution,
right? Okay,
yeah.
So an execution in our world,
execution and monitoring, and
so the terminology shifts a little bit in our world, but you've got development. I have an idea. I'm going to start putting some ideas together to have something that's worth talking about. Might get a little funding, might get a couple of contracts to lock people in place, but you can't go into the deep stuff because it's not real yet, right? And then you go to the deep stuff, which is pre-production. I got to get all people, places and things booked. I got all the extras I'm going to need. I got to hire them. I got to make sure the SAG contracts are in place. Got to rent the gear, hire the camera operators, all that stuff. It's pre-production. Production, lights, cameras, action. Here we go. So now we're building, we're making. And then we go into post-production, which is polishing. I've got to edit things, do sound design, maybe Foley art. And that's also the same time that you're pulling a lot of your marketing assets together and whatnot. And the final phase is distribution. Distribution is where we're getting it out to the world for pay, you know? So we want to get it out on Netflix, and Netflix pays us. Cool, done. So it's those 5 stages: development, pre-production, production, post-production, and distribution. Still 5 phases. Still absolutely analogous to what you just described. And what I find interesting is, though we use different terminology, it is absolutely the same project management process, whether we're going to buy
doesn't matter what you call it.
Buy a piece of dirt, build a building, and get it rented. Done. You're going to go and bring some crazy harebrained electronic to market. Same thing.
And the people that I respect the most as project managers are the directors. Those people just blow my mind. When they take $160 million or $300 million or whatever, and they put together this just spectacle. This 2-3 hour spectacle of there's so many moving parts and everything like that. And it comes together, it does take longer than it should. Right.
There could be a more efficient path.
But I'm in awe of
you're merging an artistic vision with a process like that. That to me is awe-inspiring, because when you get those super directors who can take some crazy. Okay, we got these 7-foot blue guys on another planet. We're going to mine the colony. None of this technology exists. We're going to invent it. Nobody's heard the story, but it's kind of Pocahontas. So here we go. And suddenly we've got Avatar.
And, I was in awe of, like Elon, right? Because what he did with SpaceX and Tesla, and he's changing multiple industries.
I know.
Right? In a good way. We won't talk about what happened after that, except that I got really disappointed because that wasn't a project manager's way of doing things.
Oh, well, so, in all fairness, he's got more wins than losses, I think. And I try not to pay attention to his personal life because that just confuses me. But from his professional life,
I don't have kids yet, so I can't even relate.
Well, I've got 3. I can tell you stories. The Elon thing on the personal side is fascinating, but just knowing that, SpaceX was founded on the idea that parts should be easy to find and replaceable, and how different that changed versus NASA that couldn't get anything done because a bolt is $50,000 where a bolt is found on the shelf at Home Depot for Elon. Like, okay, what's the difference? A lot of it's mindset.
Well, that's something that I taught too. It's like that deals with quality. Okay. What the group think is quality means more money. That's not the case at all. Money has absolutely nothing to do with quality. Okay. Quality is simply the degree by which you meet requirements. Okay. So like you might have a $10,000 table out there. Okay. And then this is, $150, $200 table.
Spot on.
Right. this could be a higher quality table than the one out there.
Sure, because I could just like an idiot spend $10,000 on the table.
The 50 requirements that have been set for what this looks like, what materials it's made out of, the dimensions of it, and the stain, everything else like that. It could hit 49 of them, whereas that table will only hit 47. Right. So that is a lower quality than this. And people need to understand that. And one of the biggest reasons why companies fail is because they're so focused on the product and not the process to make the product that contributes tremendously to our 95% failure rate. Okay.
Yeah.
Let me give you an example. So my last company was Burnout Game Ventures, and which ended successfully to a certain degree. And you've heard of Angry Birds,
of course.
Right? So I had 4 people on my team from the Angry Birds team.
Oh, no kidding.
From Rovio. And so I'm having lunch with my executive producer, who was one of the producers on Angry Birds. And he's like, and we're talking about the subject. And he goes, do you know how many failures Rovio had before they hit it with Angry Birds? And I'm thinking to myself, it's a game studio, and this and that. So depending on how well funded they are, surely after, I'd say maybe, I don't know, 10. And he said 71.
That's a lot.
And I'm thinking to myself, wait a minute. So that's 71 times, came up with an idea. You put multiple people doing hundreds of man hours each, right? To write it, to develop it, to do the art, to do the physics and the math and then put that into the coding and make it look and act the way it should and everything else like that. Then you get it to market and it flops, right? Surely they would have figured something. They would have seen some hint after the third or fourth one, right? But 71? Now, if I'm an investor in Rovio, right, in Angry Birds, for example, I'm going to say 2 things. Number 1 is thank you.
Right.
I gave you 1, you gave me 6. I'm a happy camper.
Right.
Number 2, I'm going to ask is let's do it again.
Right.
So here we are in 2025. If you go to the Rovio website, right?
How many flops since?
You're going to see nothing but Angry Birds.
Oh, right. Yeah. Rinse and repeat.
They'll have 20 different ways of Angry Birds,
right?
But it's nothing other than Angry Birds because they are literally incapable of recreating that success.
Well, right.
Because they focused on
proofs.
The product.
Yeah.
And not the process to make the product.
Oh, that's really interesting. So if they could reverse engineer the process with which they found their way to success,
right?
You're saying there's a higher likelihood they could repeat the success.
Yes. So at Burnout Game Ventures, we focused on the process to make the product. Okay. And so we took 5. So the typical independent game studio takes 2 to 4 years to make a game. Okay. And it costs them about $750,000 either in hard costs or opportunity costs. Most of it's opportunity costs, but you get the idea. Yeah. But when they put it out there and they market it, in 5 years, they'll average less than 22,000 unit installs or sales. Okay. So we took 5 games from 5 different studios and 5 different platforms and 5 different genres of games. And we averaged 6 months development time, 100,000 unit sales in the first year for 10% of the cost.
Wow.
And the thing is we can do that with any company, any technology, any service.
So just
because
dig
it's
into the
process based, right? And so that's what, to answer your question initially, that's what we teach at Orlandopreneur. And when we get our education programs going and everything else like that, and our cohorts and so on and so forth, then we're gonna start knocking out of the park, because my purpose in life is to hit that 10% globally.
Right.
Okay. So, but tallest trees start from the smallest seeds, as they say in China.
Yeah.
So started OrlandoPreneur. First thing we got to do is just let's get everybody together.
Right.
That's, Wallet Hub names Orlando the number one startup city in the country 5 of the last 6 years. Okay.
Which to me is a little astounding, because I think the lore around Silicon Valley, San Francisco, Boston's got a good name for startup.
How's that working out for them?
Oh, it's terrible, right? But the lore is still there.
Right.
So that means we're the sleeper. Right.
So the thing is everybody puts a preponderance of weight on their decision-making process about what makes a great startup city on the amount of capital raised for startups. Okay.
Fair. Yeah, I get it.
However, when 75% of that money is wasted, how good of a metric is that?
Well, it becomes a terrible one when you're
it's
losing that much
money. It's a horrible
money.
metric.
Yeah.
It's like, why are you placing so much impetus on the amount of money that you're blindly putting into startups, right, that fail at a 75% rate, let alone a 95%? It just beggars belief, right? And so it's like, what we do is again, I've taken these processes and I've been honing them my entire life.
Yeah.
And so, my successes, the Wall Street Journal's not going to write about my successes, right?
No, it's not. Frankly, it's not sexy enough.
It's not sexy enough, right? But however, look at the world we live in. If I, the entrepreneur, am happy, my employees are happy, and my investors are happy, that's a success.
Well, and sadly, it's a unicorn.
Well, the thing is not everything needs to be a unicorn.
Yeah, but even the story alone, because of the 95% law that we're currently under, that right there is a unicorn, which is...
Well, I mean, you have to understand what a unicorn is. And it's like, well, first of all, 0.02% of companies raise capital.
Isn't that crazy?
Okay. And out of those, 0.2% become, or 0.1%
become
unicorns. No, I'm sorry. 1.06% become unicorns.
But that's out of the 0.2%.
Right. But the thing is so that's 1 out of 800,000 businesses that get started become a unicorn, right? It's better odds than a lottery.
Yeah. And I guess
for the lottery, I can walk up to a counter and give them $2 and get a ticket.
Yeah.
And if I hit it, great. I'm not putting in hundreds of thousands of man hours of effort, millions of dollars of cost,
it's
blood, sweat, tears, sleepless nights. I've had clients that have gone bankrupt. They've mortgaged their homes, lost their homes. They've gotten divorced. They've lost their custody of their kids. 3 of them committed suicide.
Oh my God.
And it's like, why? Why are you doing this? Right? This is not rocket science.
But you know what? When you are unaware, it is rocket science, because conjuring it up on your own is hard and not likely, which is why OrlandoPreneur is actually so important.
Yeah.
Because that awareness and exposure to the importance of process. And I tell this story often, but you probably haven't heard me to tell it. When I was getting my undergraduates, and I collected a whole bunch of them, one of them was in philosophy. And I got in a whole bunch of trouble. I was not used to ever flunking anything. And I got a big, fat, ugly F on one of my first papers.
Right.
And so, and there was a CB written on it.
Right.
And I walked in, I said, this is a really good paper. I don't, it at least deserves a D, but what the heck is an F doing on here?
Right.
And they're like, well, one, you're not allowed to have an idea until you're over 40. This is philosophy. And this was their thing. In philosophy, you were distilling the knowledge that others have gone before you. And so you're sorting it out because there's too much to read, too much to know. This process, the paper that you're doing is called an exegesis. The assignment is to distill what they're saying with clarity. And that's it.
Right.
And in doing so, there is a process to organizing your thoughts and displaying, and your paper is going to be different than somebody else's paper because you might use different source material. But ultimately, there is a process to displaying your argument for the case you're making about the source material. And that is all. Well, the next paper, I got like a high D, low C. And then after that, I started really figuring out that the process that they were making me submit to was freeing. And in order to get to a deliverable of quality,
right.
And I don't buy into the you can't have ideas till you're 40 thing, but given the example of
that, yeah.
right, but given the example of we are here with a specific assignment, and if I go off the reservation and have all my own ideas, I'm now rather off task. And there was such a defined process to getting to a deliverable that made sense and proved that I had thought critically about multiple authors, multiple thinkers, right. and how their thoughts have affected each other. The process was everything.
Right.
And once I unlocked the process, my GPA in that course of study was like a 396 by the time I was all said and done.
Right.
The 0.04 was me screwing up those papers. And it's all well and good because I learned a ton. And I've applied that to my writing processes, even in creative pursuits, the rest of my life.
Of course.
Because the process is free. It works. And then extrapolating that common sense experience, going, okay, I've seen how it works.
Yeah.
I can see how it could be applied to an infinite number of things in the world, including project managing your way to success in entrepreneurship.
Yeah.
That said, I'm a visionary, not an integrator. And so I struggle with process myself. Not an excuse. I've got to do it.
Yeah.
But the reality is, I think there's a lot of people who haven't had their asses kicked by a philosophy teacher. They haven't sat, with you long enough to hear and drink the Kool-Aid that project management processes are the gold standard of success for most pursuits.
Yeah, but people still don't understand what project management is. They don't understand what planning is. They don't understand what management is. They don't even understand what driving a car is, right? And those three things, we all judge each other based on our own competency level.
Sure.
So if we're drastically incompetent as a driver, a planner, or a project manager, or a manager, then who are we to understand whether or not what good things are? Because the problem is we've never had a good, we're few and good managers and good planners and good drivers for that matter are such a small minority of the overall population. So it's like lean startup. Okay. So when Eric Ries wrote that, when first time I was reading it, I mean, just in the first chapter, he's poo-pooing management and planning like multiple times. And so by the third chapter, I realized that this book is not for all entrepreneurs, it's for entrepreneurs.
Got it. Did he ever make that statement clear?
No, but what he said, one statement he did say was that his book is in no way, shape, form, or fashion, almost paraphrasing here, suitable for a process. And what happened? Strategizer guys, in Silicon Valley say, let's boil this down into a canvas. They call it the business model canvas from the lean startup, and they make a system out of it.
Of course, because you can systematize anything, which makes it sexy. But
I've been a mentor for many incubators and accelerators over the years, and I ask them to always bring in their BMC. And when they bring it in, I just rip it to shreds and throw it over my shoulder. And they're like, why are you doing that? I said, because when you look at this business model canvas, you talk about you're focused on the product and not the process to make the product. And that product in the business model canvas is value, right? So you have value properly as the backbone of the canvas of your business model. The problem is you don't go through the process to understand what that value is. And that's why you fail, right? If you don't know why you're doing something, then how do you know what problem you're solving? And if you don't know the target market, you don't know what problem you're solving, then how you can offer a solution. Right. And if you don't have a solution, then why even bother knowing what the competition is? And that's a whole nother story. And
what you mean, SWOT analysis isn't important?
It's important. The thing is people don't understand what competition is. I can't tell you how many entrepreneurs have come to me and said, "Oh, I have no competition." So I was having a chat with in Tampa. Steve Wozniak was out there, so we're talking, and I'm like. And there was a lot of young, aspiring, hotshot, entrepreneurs in the group. And it was at Civo Navigate. So we're there and we're talking, and I noticed all the kids were, anybody under 40 is a kid to me, but they're all, really excited and whatnot. And I said, so Steve, and I winked at him, and he said, he smiled, and I said, when you invented the Apple computer, personal computers did not exist.
Yeah.
Nobody even knew what it was. And I said, what was your competition? And it was like an E.F. Hutton commercial. Everybody shut up and they got it really close. And he said, our competition was a pad of paper, a pencil, a slide rule, and an HP 12C, right? A hand calculator, right? And what people don't understand is competition isn't what other competitors are doing. It's what your customer's doing to solve their problem.
Right. It's the supplementary products and services that take over. It's funny. So in the previous episode recording, and I don't know the order that these will release, so this could sound a little wonky to the audience, but I interviewed Dan Mason, general manager of the Rochester Red Wings, the baseball team. And he made an interesting point that falls perfectly in line with this. Baseball at the AAA and lower level has direct competition with movies, with Netflix, with the local park, with the local amusement park, with board games. It's anything you could do to substitute entertainment time and family time against what they serve and what they do.
Right.
And they've done a brilliant job becoming a cultural icon in that region.
Right.
And so they often win against their competition. But he's very clear. There's no other local baseball team that can hold a candle to the experience of them. Baseball isn't the competition.
Right.
And hockey, which is the other local sport, is in the off season.
Yeah.
That is not competition.
Right.
What's competition is all the other time fillers.
Right.
So to your point, there's a lot of competition out there, but it's for your attention, time, and money that would replace your existence.
Right. The thing, though, is with a startup is that, especially in this day and age, somebody will come up to me with an app idea and tell me there's no competition. Well, I've been an organizer for 1 Million Cups for over 10 years now. And it's like I've seen 5 to 10 presentations almost identical to that.
Right. Because you've been, 2 presentations a week times 50 average a year. And so 100 presentations.
And so
every year.
So pre-COVID, the whole world believed that the success rate of startups, the failure rate of startups was 80% in 5 years. Right.
I've heard the 5-year stat. Yeah.
Entire history of startups. Right. It was 80% fail in 5 years. Okay. And that hasn't been my experience. And so after I've had a distasteful experience looking for capital for Burnout, I said, I was really frustrated. I was very upset. I was like, the last time I raised capital, I sent out an email to 10 people on Monday and I got my money on Friday, and then
that's weird.
And then after spending 2 years looking for capital during COVID, when the game industry is going crazy, and then winding up having to turn it down because, I didn't want to get in bed with the people that had made the offer. Then, that was going to do a bigger disservice to my investors than anything else. Right.
Wow.
So I said, okay, so I'm really frustrated. I'm like, what the hell? And all my investors are being paid back, by the way. So if you're listening, take heart. But in any case, so I started looking and I'm like, this 80% number just is FUBAR. Right?
Yeah.
And so I said, okay, where does it come from? So then I did my research and I pride myself in my research capabilities. And I find out that it was from the Department of Labor looking at county occupational licenses.
What?
County occupational licenses.
Like plumbers?
No. Everybody who has a business in a county has to register that business with the county and get an occupational license. Mm-hmm. Okay. They pay $65 or whatever it is and they get the license, right? Now they're susceptible to taxes and regulations by the county, all right, on that business. So I've had, my OrlandoPreneur events, they do 150, 200 people, right? And I asked them multiple times. So I said, raise your hand if you have your own business, and of course, 80% of the hands goes up. And then I ask them, okay, keep your hand up if you've ever filed an occupational license. Immediately, more than 2/3 of the hands go down, right? And then I said, keep your hands up if the disposition of the company changed and you registered that change with the county, and all the hands went down, right? So it's obviously a spurious doesn't even begin to describe the quality of that data, right? So then I'm researching, and I find out that 5% or 95% of all the startups that go through the 4,300 incubators and accelerators around the world don't exist 2 years later. That is something I can chew on.
Right.
That's something I can chew on. And so I started, shouting from the rooftops. It's not 80% in 5 years. It's 95% in 2 years. Now, hopefully that's been, taken up by the groupthink as a recognized number now. The thing is that it's like, why? And it's like I was saying earlier, all these reasons why they fail. And it's like, so the cause of failure is us. But what's the root cause? Okay. Mm-hmm. So why do we fail? And there's 3 reasons why we fail. Number 1 is we don't have the right mindset.
Sure.
Okay. We're only chasing the dollar. We're going to put together a team and raise millions of dollars and exit and go,
live on a beach,
sit on a beach earning 20%. Right. You're not doing anybody shit worth of good, frankly. But there's that, and I'm going to change the world, but I'm only going to work 30 hours a week to do it. Right.
Right. So there's no dedication.
You need growth mindset. You need a whole bunch of things, right? Be coachable, et cetera. That leads in turn to insufficient self-education. Right.
Right.
So I meet people, like I met one yesterday, and I hope if he listens to this, that he'll respect this and appreciate it. If you sit there and you, it's natural for us to find an easy way. Right?
Sure.
We're always looking for an easy way out, a shortcut out. Mm-hmm. So let's latch on to Grant Cardone. Okay. And let's
10X.
Let's 10X. Right. Mm-hmm. The thing is not everybody's Grant Cardone.
Right.
Okay. And the thing is you can learn, you read all of Grant's books or anybody else's books, Elon Musk's book or whatever. It doesn't matter. Right. You can read all their books and everything else like that and listen to their podcasts and so forth. That does not make you an expert. Okay. I've met people that have started 2 or 3 companies and exited from 2 or 3 companies, and now they're supposed to be an expert. They're not. Just because they made money, right?
Yep.
And they got lucky 3 times. Right?
It's actually what every internet guru is made of, by the way.
Yes. And it's like, no, you get you get wisdom as an entrepreneur from being in the trenches.
Yes.
And not for 2 or 3 years or 5 years or 10 years and not making billions of dollars, but by being in the trenches.
Yeah.
And working with and learning from hundreds, if not thousands of other entrepreneurs and learning about the problems they faced and the solutions they came up with and learning about how to be a good project manager.
Yeah.
And
that's right.
Think like a project manager. That's what I did with my kids, right? In my class. In 2 weeks, I had them thinking like project managers. And in 4 weeks, they were project managers. Okay. And in 1 month time, they were developing a project management plan, 170 plus page plan to do a 5-day or a 5-month game development effort. And when our master's students took over the management of the underclass, the bachelor degree, final 5-month final project, that first presentation, you could have heard a pin drop. The whole school was stunned with the quality of the games that came out.
That's awesome.
And our ranking our world rankings started going up. Right? So
yeah. Keep going.
So again, that's focusing on the process to make the product instead of just making the product.
All right. So something you said about in this process conversation, where you got to a 170-page document.
Yeah.
Which makes me cringe a little bit. And I'll explain why, because I think you'll help me orient this.
Right.
I used to, we have similar educational backgrounds. We both have our MBAs and whatnot. And so I've been asked to come back to different colleges and speak to entrepreneurship classes. And one of my favorite things to do is ask them about their business plan projects and how they're going. And everybody's proud of these giant documents that they're working on and all this. And I go, well, that is the greatest exercise in futility. I'm glad you wasted all that time. and they're all like white when I say it. I go, circular file, right? Everybody trash it.
Yep.
And I'm just tearing them down for fun, but I do it because I like to remind them that business planning, like I know you make business plans for people, but I also know that you involve them in the process, because the key to a business plan is that the people creating it are the best equipped to then go execute on it, because you have to think about, A versus B and the situations in the world, and what you're going to put into your document is representative of one thought, but you threw out 40 thoughts to get to that one thought.
Of course.
And that mental exercise is iron sharpening iron through the process so that you're sharp.
Yes.
And so it's really almost a manifestation of how good you are that you've got a finished document, no matter how many pages there are.
Right.
And so I hear a 170-page document. And of course, I like standard operating procedures. I like having documents that teach me how to do things. I'm not saying big documents are right or wrong.
Right.
But it's a little scary to me to think of a 170-page business document like that, because you're not going to follow it page by page.
Right.
That's not a thing. So what is the merit of a 170-page document like that?
So the merit is I'm a teacher, and I'm trying to inculcate into my students the importance of planning. Okay. And the methodology and the process of planning. Okay. And which is 80% of project management. Yeah. And it's a lot easier for a Ferrari to go 10 miles an hour than a Yugo to do 100 miles an hour.
This is a truth.
Right. So once you teach everybody how to be a Ferrari, right?
Yes.
Part of that understanding of being a Ferrari is if it works, it works.
That's right. Okay.
So the night before one of my final exams, was due, and the final project was due and all that, one of my students called me up and said, so what's the shortest PMP you've ever seen? And I said, 1 page. He was like, 1 page? I said, yeah. He says, how could it be 1 page? And I said, well, you have to understand, this is when a company, Gulfstream, and the first time they did a project management plan, it was 20,000 pages long, more than 20,000 pages. Wow. Right. And over the years, as they're doing the project more and more and more, again and again and again, the same project, they're going through the same process, different aircraft, right? But they're going through the same processes. But when you have the same core team doing it, they get inculcated with the processes and everything else, and the policies and procedures and everything else. By the time they came up with, the G4 or whatever, or the G650 or whatever, this aspect of like the wing or the landing gear, whatever, it's only 1 page. Right. Because they already know all the stuff. All they need to know as a team is what's the name of the project, what's the goal of the project, or goals of the project. What are the primary requirements that are changing from the last project, right? Right. Any policies and procedures are changing from the last project, right? If any. Yep. Who's the team members? What's your budget? What's your schedule? That's it. You can put that on 1 page. Right. Because all the other data is legacy, both internal to them as well as other documents that pre-exist. Exactly. Yeah. The thing is there's no shortcut to that. Right. There's no shortcuts in being successful in a startup. Yep. If there's a shortcut and you see one and you experience one, and I have in my past, I'm just lucky. Yeah, right. I'm just lucky. And you can't teach lucky. Yeah. It's like Rovio got lucky with Angry Birds. And they had to keep playing the Angry Birds angle. And they have to squeeze every drop of that lemon to get it, Yeah. And sure, that's great. But as an investor, I'm not interested in, all the movies and games and magazines and everything else you can do on IP. I want you to create a new IP. Right. Let's make another $1 billion. Right. Right. Because once you've drained it, you've drained it. I know. And so it's
the fact that there was an Angry Birds 2 blows my mind, because the fact that there was an Angry Birds 1 blows my mind. Well, but anyhow, so there was a market, there's kids.
May God bless them. It's great and all that, but it doesn't help the game industry. It doesn't help, the game players. It doesn't help anybody else.
You seem like you like the game industry. Do you like the game industry?
I was in it for, I don't know how many years.
Yeah.
I was named the 50 over 50 in the global game industry. Yeah.
50 over 50.
Yeah.
That's a thing.
Well, it was, yeah.
Okay. What, did they get rid of it?
I don't know. They only did it 2 years, so I'm only one of 100 people with that designation.
Well, that's kind of fun. Okay. Well, I mean, 30 under 30, 40 under 40. And then after you're over 40, they're like, we're going to take a break for 10 years. And now we're going to start ranking the old boys.
Well, I was 40 under 40 in Orlando as well in 1998. The thing is, though, is in the game industry, it's very ageist, right?
Yeah.
And so Kate Edwards, who was the executive director of the IMBIA or IGDA, International Game Developers Association, when she retired from that, she started this thing, and she wanted to recognize the people that are really doing all the success in the game industry, or the people that are over 50, right?
That's interesting.
And it was a vote type thing.
Okay.
And so you could have knocked me over with a feather when she sent me an email saying, I'd like to congratulate you. You were awarded a 50 over 50. And I'm like, what? And I'm looking at the other names, Walton and Siegel and all these other people. And I'm like, are you kidding me? I was dumbfounded. I was like,
I had the same
to be
experience.
Included in the same group of people as these guys.
Yeah. I was one of the 48 distinguished jurors in a very old film festival that now no longer exists.
Yeah.
But, Bob Dotson from CBS was right next to me, and film professors from NYU Tisch and UCLA and USC, all these like huge names. And I'm like, I even called the director of the program and I said, I think you mispublished this. And Betsy goes, what do you mean mispublished it? I said, well, my name's on that list. And I just got a letter saying that I was invited to be one of the 48 distinguished jurors. And she goes, no, we know the quality of your work. We wanted you.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm like, you like me, Josh Pies? And she's like, yup, that's the mistake we made, Josh. And I was like, okay, well, I guess thank you. And I'll run with it. But every once in a while, that's very humbling, isn't it?
It is, and it's like in 22, when I still had Burnout, I was selected to be in the competition for Innovator of the Year.
Wow!
At the Synapse conference in Tampa, and so I was in the entertainment division, and I was going up against Full Sail University, which was
where you were teaching,
where I was teaching.
Oh, that's fun!
And was let go in a VC capital driven purge. And so I won.
Oh, they are a for-profit. That doesn't surprise me at all.
And so I won. I beat Full Sail. So I was Innovator of the Year.
Eat it, Full Sail. Eat it. No, actually, hey, everybody at Full Sail, we love you still.
And they're doing good things. And it's like, so I won that, and I was like, really? And I'm like, okay, great, right?
That's fun.
And
I'm not sure what to do with those things frequently. Like, I guess I'll press release it.
I don't know what to do with them either, but. I guess they make good paperweights or something, but
yeah, they're fancy.
They're This one, so a friend of mine actually they 3D printed the award.
Oh, that's so this industry. Of course they 3D printed the award.
I don't know. My favorite whatchamacallit win. One of my favorite wins was. I had entered my car into the Florida the Festivals of Speed at the Ritz-Carlton, and there's like 400 vehicles there. And in my European sports car class, were 43 vehicles, Lamborghinis, Ferraris, everything.
Really?
Right.
What do you have?
In my AMG SLK.
Yeah.
And I won.
Really?
And it was like, I'm hearing my name called, and I'm, my wife at the time, and we're sitting out there on the dock, and we're eating lunch, and I hear Lindsay, Rupert, where are you? I'm like, I'm here. She says, you won something. Excuse me. And I'm like, what? A magazine subscription?
Right.
She says, no, you won something. So I'm like, okay, great. So I go up there, and they gave me the
trophy and everything.
A glass, card glass type
That's
thing.
Cool.
And I'm like, you could have knocked me over with a feather. It's like, all these BMWs and Lamborghinis and everybody else, they're all pissed off and everything. I'm like, dude, what can I say?
Hey, you got a good car. You just got to go with it.
So that was my most rewarding, I think.
That's funny to me that's the most rewarding for you. I know you're a car guy.
Yeah.
But with all the other accomplishments in the entrepreneurship world, and you're so passionate about it, I would figure if I were a betting man, that those would be a little bit more fulfilling than you getting surprised that your car won best in show.
Well, I'll tell you what is fulfilling. So what's fulfilling to me is Orlandopreneur, I started, in early 23, and so we just passed 4,100 members.
But no, legit. So people, you wouldn't know this, but the last time Rupert and I talked about this, he was at under 3,600 members and approaching 3,600. And that was 5 weeks ago?
No, it was a few months ago.
Okay. Yeah. Even so, that's a rapid uptick. Yeah.
We're adding 100 people every 19 to 21 days.
Phenomenal. So keep going.
So in any case, everything that our top 3, we have 9 values, but our top 3 values are entrepreneurship, altruism, and innovation.
Awesome.
Okay. And when I say those 3 things, I mean those 3 things. Okay. And innovation is like creativity. It's not limited to the design of a product or service, right? Our non-disclosures are innovative. Our advisor agreements are innovative. Our contracts, our location contracts are innovative. Every single thing we do must be innovative. Okay. Who else in town, before we came about, nobody else in town was having a monthly event in different places around the city.
Yeah, there was a lot of rinse and repeat.
Everybody was just all at the Church Street Exchange, all at here, all at there, and blah, 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 right? So I came up, I said, first thing we need to do is get everybody together. So we got together, at that point in time, it was November of 22. And my good friend VJ, if you're listening, I miss you, brother. And so he's like, I'm going through all this angst, right? That I already described about, what's going on in the industry. Why is it a 95% failure rate, blah, blah, blah. And he says, well, what can we, if your mission is to double it globally, you got to start somewhere. And I said, yeah. And he says, well, good thing Orlando's a great place to be. And I said, you're damn right. And he says, well, what did we do? And I said, let's just get everybody together. So it was December 5th that we created our first startup happy hour, monthly startup happy hour.
Of 22.
And it was for 2 weeks from that day.
Wow, that's a rapid turn. Did anybody show up? So in the holidays, no less.
So in the holidays. And in 2 weeks, we had 306 RSVPs and 207 people showed up, including all the venture capital firms, all the angel groups, all the incubators and accelerators in town, and all the top, entrepreneurs in town. Okay. Yeah. And we even had, Deep Work Capital was there and Seed Funders was there and all these others. And in fact, Seed Funders gave a presentation on venture capital in Orlando.
I think you guys had incredible timing because coming out of the pandemic the way we were, the world was desperate for that type of thing. Yeah. And so you guys you tuned in at the right time to what the world needed.
Right. So for once, the timing works right on me. I mean, so in any case, so I was, again, you knocked me over the feather at that point. I'm like, oh crap, what have I stepped into here? And I wasn't ready because I'm still burned out from Little Burnout, right? Yep. So I'm still burned out as an individual and as an entrepreneur and professionally. I'm just like, I need a vacation, and I still do. And so I'm like, okay, well, I can't do another one in January. I said, I'll do one in February, but I spent the next 60 days planning. Yeah. Right. So I planned out what's our goal, what's our mission, what's our vision, what's, taglines, all these other things, creating startup machines. And all these other things. And then we hit the ground running in February, and we've been averaging over 150 people per event. Wow. For 2.5 years now. And so what really gets me though is like meetup.com. There's 20,000 plus meetup groups in meetup.com who have done millions of events. And every event gets rated by the attendees of the events on 9 different things. Things like, I felt safe, or it was inclusive, or they started on time, or I met new people, or, things like that. Yeah. But the one that I'm interested in is it created impact. Okay. And so I'm analyzing all the numbers based on our reviews. By the way, we have, 515 or so, or over 500 reviews from at the last event we had 3,900 people. Yeah. So we had 3,900 people, members at the last event. And so from 3,900 people, we had 500 plus reviews.
Wow.
Giving us a 4.8 out of 5 rating. And I know the two 1-star ratings we got were from people that were ESL people. They thought 1 was number 1.
Oh, yes.
And I'm like,
English is the second language. They're probably thinking number 1 is we're number 1.
And I've talked to them and I said, oh, damn, because they gave a glowing review, but then 1 star. Right. And I'm like, what, so in any case, so I'm doing the numbers and I'm, doing the data and crunching the numbers on all the different things. And, so we're 98%, met new people, and 97%, whatnot. And then I come across made an impact, and I'm looking at the number, and at the time it was like 33%, right? And I thought, that's odd, right?
Yeah. So everybody loved it, but it's
we're
low on impact.
Well, no. So I contacted Meetup and I said, I don't need to know who or what, but can you at least give me the numbers as to what's your averages for each one of these 9 things, and what's your median?
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Your median. And so they sent me the numbers, and their mean for make an impact for all the events, the millions of events that they've had, is 5.1%.
Holy cow.
And we just passed 55% on our last event.
Oh, that's really interesting.
And so what's happening at our events is exactly why I created OrlandoPreneur. People are coming there and they're starting new relationships. They're meeting new people, starting new relationships. They're creating businesses. They're finding new customers. It's creating impact.
Yeah.
Right. In fact, everywhere I go, when I meet somebody who's attended an event, first thing I say is, thank you so much for attending. Right. And then I ask them, did any good come of it? Right. And then I've got a list on my phone of people that I'm meeting, and they tell me, oh yeah, like this guy the other day said, I met somebody and we're starting a joint venture with our 2 companies. And we came up with this idea, and it's going to help people in this way. And we wouldn't have done it if we hadn't been OrlandoPreneur.
Creating impact.
And sponsors come and they're blown away. They're like, I'm actually getting to meet with 150 plus people, potential customers, face to face.
Yeah.
Right. And plus I work with my sponsors to help improve their ability to do that.
Yeah.
Right. Because I want them to be successful, because I want them to stay sponsors.
Of course.
Right? Yeah. And so I teach them things about table, setup, pitch, right? How do you talk to these people? Everything, follow up, all this other stuff. And I teach them these things so that they stay sponsors for years, like Bachner Law was, like Kirkendall Insurance was, et cetera. And so, and then they know that 50% of the people that come to the event every month are new, never been there before. So it's like, that's 75 to 100 people that are new potential customers every month.
Right. And it really is a pre-qualified audience. You're not getting tire kicker looky-loos, because everybody understands what the thing is.
Our makeup of our audience is, so they're entrepreneurs. So we have these dots that we have them put on their name tag.
Oh, cool.
So the blue dot is you consider yourself, you identify as an entrepreneur. Okay.
Yeah.
And those are, I think it was 48.7% or something like that last time I looked. And then there's a lot of overlap, obviously, because I wear all 4.
Yeah.
And then there's 57.1% are small business owners. Okay. And identifies that. That's the yellow dot. And then the red dot are service providers. Those are people that are, professional, they're attorneys, they're CPAs, they're, service providers and whatnot to help. And their target market are startups and small businesses, SMBs. And then the green one, of course, are the investors. And we're averaging 17.8% of the mark of the.
Are they willing to openly flag themselves as investors?
They put those green dots on.
Really?
They do.
That's interesting because I know a lot of investors.
People have been investing in companies that they meet at OrlandoPreneur. Yes, they have.
That's awesome.
I haven't been keeping track of it because people are,
it's a little harder.
We're trying to set up a system to do that because I didn't do that in the 90s with my Florida venture group. And if half of the companies got invested in that we put up, we're looking at, $40-50 million over 6 years. So,
right.
So, but I didn't keep track of that because I was too busy with everything else. But in any case, so it's like, it's a fantastic opportunity, right?
It really
for
is.
Everybody concerned. And one of the reasons why it makes an impact is because the culture that I'm creating for these events, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, it's a networking event. Yes, I buy the first drink. The thing is, though, is every single event we do, there's a learning component.
Yeah.
And so I get up there, if there's nobody else that's speaking, I get up there and spend 15, 20 minutes telling people how to ask questions and not make assumptions, right? How to plan, the importance of sales.
Yeah.
Right. Instead of the business model canvas, I created what I call a venture canvas.
Okay.
Which takes people through a similar process, but through the process that you understand. And not only the better you understand the value of what you're doing, the better you can communicate that value.
Yes, that's fair.
Because, I was at a judging competition, a demo day recently. And afterwards, all 6 of the participants are around me and they're like, so what'd you think? And I said, well, they're some of the better presentations I've seen, in the last year, and I see 8 to 10 a week. And I said, I wouldn't invest in any one of you. And
that's a hard pill.
And they're like, why not? And I said, because you're focused on the product, the features and benefits. Features and benefits are not what people buy.
No, they're buying solutions.
What they're buying is value. Buying value. That's it. End of story. You bought that shirt because it either saved you time, saved you money, or made your life better. Do you feel better wearing that shirt?
I like this shirt.
There you go. Right? So for startups and entrepreneurs to be successful, they have to understand the value that they're presenting to their customers so that they can message that and get it out there. And then
of course, the process to making
push
that value
becomes pull, right?
Yeah.
And so your marketing dollars are far more efficient.
Yeah.
Right. Like when I had my political campaigns, our average cost per vote was 63 cents.
Well, that seems
our average for our competitors was nearly over $4.50.
Wow.
Why? Because we understood the value of the candidate and their messaging, and we got that out there far more efficiently. Plus, I was using data because nobody knew what data was back then.
Yeah. What years were these? 80s?
This is 80, 80,
yeah.
83.
So that was very ahead of its time to even.
Nobody even knew what data was.
Data,
so I'm using data. I'm sending out direct mail pieces that are getting an 8.5% response rate.
Yeah, folks, 1.5% is earth shattering in direct mail, just so you're aware.
Yeah. And I had the same, through Burnout, through my simulation entertainment group, my simulation company, every restaurant.
Yep.
Right. And everything else. It's like, use these processes and your customer acquisition costs plummet.
Yes.
Plummet. In the game industry, the average customer acquisition cost in the game industry is $6.30.
When you're selling an app for $4.99, you're screwed.
Right. Our customer acquisition cost was 87 cents.
Okay. That's money.
because we went through these processes. We took the time and effort to go through these processes, and boom, right? So
That's awesome.
What we do at OrlandoPreneur is we're going to be teaching these processes to startups so that they drastically increase their chances of being successful. So I feel great that my OrlandoPreneur events, I feel fulfilled when people tell me about the testimonials and everything else on LinkedIn and Facebook and Instagram and everything. When they say, "Oh, this is a great event. I met somebody," and blah, 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 and so forth. That's gratifying. However, with my ADHD, my lifelong slogan was always grateful, never satisfied.
Okay. Well, since you're not satisfied with 4,100 right now, because there's more people that can get in the flow and get some help, let's talk about that.
Sure.
So let's get you to 10,000 people.
Oh, yeah.
How do we entrepreneurs, we business owners, we vendors, we investors get to OrlandoPreneur? How do we get involved and start there? But then I got a follow-up question to it.
So the best way is right now, Meetup is what we're pushing.
Okay.
So
there's got to be a .com, right?
So
OrlandoPreneur.
It's meetup.com/OrlandoPreneur.
Okay.
It's one word, OrlandoPreneur.
Okay.
And that'll get you to the Meetup page, and it's free to join. You just, put in whatever username you want. We prefer you use your first and last name, and
makes it easier on everybody.
And you put in your email, and then you start getting the notices and all that. We have our startup happy hour events are the third Monday of every month. Okay. And so on this coming Monday, we're going to be at Oviedo Rock and Brews. Okay. On Redbug Lake Road. Yep.
We're recording in August of 25, everybody. And so this may publish after August of 25. So you need to make sure you go to Meetup and find the most, soonest upcoming for you.
Right. We like to have our meetups, in line months in advance. Yep. But we're only a 5-person core team and
you always get them done. I'm not worried about that.
So, but in any case, last month where were we last month? We were at Blue Martini. We had 211 people at Blue Martini. Phenomenal. And we rolled out Proxenia accelerators.
Scott's organization.
Right, Scott's organization. UCF Rosen College was there. There was a First Coastal Bank or something like that was there.
Cool.
We had that I remember seeing a picture of it yesterday or last night.
Yeah, you guys are really good about documenting in pictures. I've been impressed. Whoever's handling your social media is a very good hype person for the organization.
Yeah, well, if you see any tagging, that's me.
Well done, sir.
If you see any tagging, that's me. And last night I took 2 hours to do all that stuff, but in any case, Natalia, she does her social media and she's doing a great job.
She is doing a great job.
She's doing a great job.
So the future cohorts that you want to put together to go through this understanding of project and process management,
right?
I know they're coming, but how soon are they coming?
Well, we already started doing piecemeal our lunch and learns.
Okay. So
when I talk at the events, we call it a fixin' to learn ya. Okay. So it's a salute to Brian Power and his used car lot in Melbourne. So thanks, Brian. And so it's fixing to learn ya. And then from that, we do a lunch and learn ya.
Gotcha.
Right? So instead of 20 minutes, now I'm spending 2 hours going over a particular subject.
Got it.
To really help people understand the importance of it.
And those are paid events, right?
Yes, those are paid events.
Okay.
And then from there, we go to the workshops. And the workshops are anywhere from 3 to 8 hours. However, we guarantee a deliverable.
Okay.
Right. So like our venture canvas is an 8-hour one. At the end of that 8 hours, you have a business plan for your business.
Phenomenal.
Okay. And then, other workshops are going to be like, developing a pitch presentation, right? How to pitch investors, right? How to talk or communicate with them, how to do PR, we have 40 subjects.
Got it. Yep.
And so then we put those 40 subjects into a boot camp, and we're doing boot camps not just for startups, but also for investors, because we have to reprogram everybody, because the Silicon way of doing things does not work. It does not work. Okay. All it does is make rich people richer. It's not helping Main Street, and Main Street is
that's where families get
99.9% of all businesses in the country are Main Street.
Absolutely.
Okay. 50% of all jobs in the country are Main Street. And if you're focusing on that 0.1% and the other 50%, you're not helping anybody else.
Yeah.
Okay. And I don't want to be hypocritical because I invest, my portfolio invests in those big companies and things like that.
Yeah.
But the thing is a significant portion of my portfolio invests in startups.
Right.
Okay.
No, I mean, everybody's got to protect their portfolio and diversify wisely.
Sure,
and that's why we have people who coach us through our financial decisions on that side as well. So I understand your hedge against being potentially hypocritical, but I think the reality is you're putting more of your money where your passion is than the vast majority of people are
100%.
putting. Yeah, absolutely. So head held high, sir.
Yeah. So that brings up another subject is, people ask me why Orlando? Why is it so great?
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, let's go through the numbers. Yeah. Right. First of all, there's $100 billion sitting in banks in the 5-county area, right? Doing nothing. 100 billion. Florida is second to California in the amount of money in the state, more than New York. Wow. Okay. Orlando has 100 billion sitting, and that's easy to find. Just go into the Orlando Business Journal book of lists and add up all the monies under deposit. Wow. Over 100 billion. And how much of that gets used for SBA loans? Less than 1%.
What?
Less than 1%.
That's heartbreaking.
That is heartbreaking. And it's infuriating. So it's like all these people are just making all this money and sitting on it, doing nothing to help anybody else, which drives me nuts because I know true entrepreneurs don't do that. Yeah. True entrepreneurs pay it forward.
Yeah.
Right. And the other statistic is there's 500,000 college students within 100 miles a year. Where else on earth do you have 100 or 500, 500,000 college students within 100 miles of a location?
That's an incredible amount of people. Well,
it's crazy.
How many are at UCF alone?
UCF alone is 66, 68,000. Valencia is 66,000.
Yeah. Well, I live in St. Cloud, Florida. Like, that's the population of the whole city.
Yeah. Yeah. And so another thing too is what people don't understand is Orlando is home to 12 different tech sectors. Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yes.
And
very high tech sectors.
These tech sectors are where the rest of the world comes to do business. Right. Modeling and simulation, $6-7 billion a year. Nobody even comes close. Not even close. Not even half.
Yep.
Right. Modeling and simulation, digital media, gaming, websites, other digital media type stuff. Another $5.5 billion. Right. Yep. We have EA located here and so forth. Then aerospace.
Yeah, we're massive in aerospace.
You look out the window and there's two rockets going off every week.
Yeah.
That's another, $5-6 billion.
I remember when I first moved here, my wife is driving the kids to school and she's calling me. She goes, "There's a fireball in the sky. There's a fireball in the sky." And I'm like, "What do you mean?" So I get up on the roof and I'm looking, I'm like, "There's a fireball in the sky." Yeah. And I just quickly Googled. I'm like, "Babe, it's a rocket launch." Yeah. We didn't know. And then it became normal.
Yeah, it's normal. Yeah, you should go see one. They're spectacular.
Yeah, we haven't been up close for one yet. Oh, no, actually, that's untrue. I have. I accidentally ended up on a field trip on the wrong day. And I say the wrong day. It was to Kennedy.
Yeah.
They accidentally booked us for a day. They closed Kennedy down.
Yeah.
And so I got like 250 kids there.
Yeah.
And so they actually ended up negotiating with us, letting us in and gave us a private viewing area.
Yeah.
But we weren't even supposed to be there. It was for the first private manned launch ever.
Oh, nice.
And we were there for that. So okay, I have seen it.
Cool. Yeah. So that's at the Saturn V facility, right? Mm-hmm. That's the private viewing area, but that's the closest public area. There's a closer area for the media, right?
Oh, that'd be cool.
And so I did a project at NASA. So I had passes and all that. I met Neil Armstrong there.
Cool.
But in any case, I used to watch the shuttles go off, right? And it was fantastic, just unbelievable.
Florida is cool.
But in any case, so we've got, do you know that Orlando's a leader in automated driving?
That is a shock to me.
Okay. And we used to be a leader in semiconductors, and now we're going to be again because we're just investing hundreds of millions of dollars in a new semiconductor plant, which is based on where the old one was.
Which is where?
Neo City in Kissimmee.
Oh, yeah, it's my neck of the woods.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that was going in there.
Yep. Okay. And advanced computing, advanced manufacturing. Defense. Oh my gosh, defense.
Well, defense is enormous.
Many billions of dollars in defense.
Yeah.
And it's like people don't understand.
I know.
Right. And
and there's also like the mouse and Harry Potter and all that too. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's like, there was a saying that the mayor came up with some saying you don't know the half of it. And well, we need a mayor that does know the half of it. Right. But in any case, I could go on.
Yeah.
Right. There's so many different things that make Orlando the perfect place to start a business. Yeah. Right. Now, I will say this, the caveat is this. So some years ago, bizjournals.com did a huge survey in the 106 at the time cities that they were in. Right. Mm-hmm. And so they ranked all the cities. And so 106, right? Orlando was number 2 in startups, but second from the bottom in startup jobs.
Ew.
That's pathetic. So
we have our work cut out.
It's the field of dreams in Orlando for startups.
Field of crash dreams.
I'm being honest here.
Yeah.
And it's like people come here and start businesses, but they don't know what the hell they're doing to start these businesses, and they fail, and then poof. Right?
Well, and that's going to bring me right around to something, because I do have to land the plane, because I don't want this to be the world's longest episode. But I knew you and I could go too long.
Yeah.
What time is it?
I'm a little long-winded.
It doesn't matter. So I have a thought, because you and I were talking about what the call to action is.
Right.
And I know one of the calls to action is attend. Mm-hmm. Like if you fall into one of those kind of 4 core categories of the right attendee to come to the event, just come to OrlandoPreneur, figure it out, get in the flow of the ecosystem. And of course, you're a 1 million cups guy. I'm a fan. So that's always a nice add-on. But I really think starting with OrlandoPreneur and then adding that as behavior is great. But there's a lot of entrepreneurial service organizations, ESOs, through all of Central Florida, hundreds of them, right?
So there's 300 ESOs and BSOs.
Okay.
Right? So, the ESOs, the entrepreneur service organizations, there's maybe 10% of them.
Okay. And the rest are BSOs.
And the rest are business service organizations.
Okay.
So, excuse me. And it just blows my mind when all these organizations with open doors and open arms, many of them offer free, because they're all nonprofits. Mm-hmm. And so every time I meet an entrepreneur, I say, have you heard of NAWBO? What's that? National Association of Women Business Owners. Have you heard of 1 Million Cups? What's that? Have you heard of Small Business Development Center? What's that? And I'm explaining, and and they don't know.
Right.
And then I'm thinking to myself, well, what's the cause of that? And the cause of that is that they're nonprofits.
Yeah.
So they don't have a budget to even market themselves.
Right.
And so at that point in time, I knew that when I started OrlandoPreneur. So one of our policies is that 40% of our marketing budget is going to help the other organizations in town market themselves.
Awesome.
Because even if they're contributing the 95%, failure rate, they're still contributing. There's still things that people can learn in their organizations, and when they go through the doors, and support them. Yep. So I want them to be supported.
Yes.
Right? Because they're going to help lift up that boat. Right.
Yeah.
So that's what we do. And we partnered up with 30 or 40 organizations in town, from UCF Tech Grove to Ideas for Us and everybody in between. And it's like we partner with them and at our events so that they can get the word out. Phenomenal. And we do 20, 30,000 impressions a month, and we're trying to push these people out there. So we invite all the other ones. So
all of you ESOs and BSOs out there, people who are working in them, leaders in them, I think this is the CTA that could be lost on you if you didn't hear it outright, right? It says you are not in competition with OrlandoPreneur.
There's no competition in helping people.
Correct. You are in collaboration on a unified mission to help entrepreneurs turn into the small business owners that are actually at the point where they can say they're thriving and not just surviving.
Right.
And we as a country need that. We as a community here in Central Florida need that. We need you, and we need all of us to be on the same page.
Yes.
So I'm putting the call to action out there that Rupert and his friends have started something that's working. You and your friends have started something that I hope is also working. Mm-hmm. And wouldn't it be so much better if we're all working on the same project together in a similar crowd, right? So I will see you at OrlandoPreneur. I am a visitor and a guest and a participant. I'm not a part of the team. I am here as a fan and as part of the constituency. And I think I need to see you there too. Mm-hmm. And so, Rupert,
I'm a fellow hippie capitalist. Yeah.
Hippie capitalist for the win. And so hey, I love this stuff. So Rupert, thank you for coming on.
Sure,
and I think you're doing God's work. I think it's awesome. And so unicorns, I told you there's going to be a lot to digest in this episode. I know I delivered on that. I know Rupert delivered on that. But so if you are in the Central Florida area and you got to the end of this, you know that you're going, okay, I got to get involved. I've got to become, and involvement isn't that you're on a committee. It's not that you're anything other than showing up and figuring it out for yourself and how you interact and participate in this ecosystem. So your assignment is to go to Meetup, find OrlandoPreneur, get on the mailing list. This is your assignment. This is my call to action for you today because it matters for you. It matters for me too, because we're all going to be better for you having done this. Meetup.com/OrlandoPreneur. All right. Go and get on the mailing list. That's step 1. 2, get it in your calendar to show up to the next event. Let's blow it up. Let's go to capacity on the building. Let's go standing room only and then some and see what happens there. And then he'll figure it out. Rupert will figure it out and make sure that the next one has the room for you and all of your friends and all of my friends. And we're all going to do the hippie capitalist thing and really figure it out together. So unicorn, come on, you're bootstrapping your way and it doesn't have to be that hard because we can all do this together. All right. So now that you've gotten that call to action, you can subscribe to all my stuff too, right? But we're focused on OrlandoPreneur right now. Now, get back to work.